Thank you. Today I'm talking about what are your superpowers. Now, that particular song that was just sung is about Peter. Well, I mean, this is one of the Bible stories that it refers to. Peter was in a boat and they saw someone walking on the water. That'd be kind of wild, yeah. And when he got close enough, they're like, oh, it's the Master, it's Jesus. And Peter, very impulsive, but also had a lot of faith, said, Master, if it's you, if it's you, call me out to walk on the water as well. If it's you, call me out to the water. And so Jesus is like, come on. Come on out. And at first, Peter was walking on the water. And then he began to do what? Doubt. What caused his doubt? Fear. Fear of what? Drowning. He saw these waves. These waves are blowing. He began looking at the outside circumstances instead of trusting in God. Ever done that? Yes. Thank you for your honesty. We have someone honest here. I think all of us have done this. And so when Peter got his eyes off of Jesus and looking instead at the circumstances and at the waves, he began to sink. Now I'm talking about what are our superpowers. And the first, now I'm interested in knowing, first of all, you can just call it out. Just shout it out. What is one of your superpowers? Healing, kindness, creativity. What? Listening. Sense of humor. Love. Patience. Loyalty. You make everyone else look better by comparison. Thank you, bud. We all have superpowers. We all have superpowers within us. I want to talk about some of them for us to consider. First of all, a superpower is our source. Now, these are all going to be S words. You know, the power of the month is strength. And what helps us to have strength? The first thing is our source. Just like in that story with Peter, Peter had strength as long as he was focused on his source, as long as he was focused on God. But when he took his eyes off, whoops. So if we're focusing on our source, if we're focusing on God, if we're focusing on that power that lives within us, if we're focusing on that presence of God, that is our source of strength. So, if you're feeling a little bit emotionally anemic, if you're feeling a bit lost, maybe look back at your source. Look back at the one in whom we live, move, and have our being, as Paul said in Acts chapter 17. Paul said, in God we live, move, and have our being. We are all propelled forth by God. The life that we are living, hey, is God's life. It's all coming from God. All the beauty that we see out here, it's all energized and manifested by God. So, keep your eyes on the source. Last week, I talked about what? Say it loud, whatever. Spiritual gifts. Thank you. I was hoping. Spiritual gifts. What are our spiritual gifts? What are the gifts that we bring to this world? You know, we looked at gifts like healing, gifts of a word of knowledge, gift of word of wisdom, gifts of generosity and abundance, gifts of teaching and preaching, gifts of all kinds of gifts. There's tons of them. And we had a handout last week, which reminds me I'd like to get that handout on our website so those of you online or those who were not here last week can see this list, which is a partial list of spiritual gifts, so you can be thinking about what is it you bring to the world. All of us bring something to the world. You know, you may be really good at business. You may be really good at driving in Honolulu traffic. You may be it's a gift. You may be really good at taking care of plants and the Aina and landscaping. You may be really good at helping others to feel welcome, the gift of hospitality. You know, we all have different gifts. And Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, of course, this is to the church in Corinth, in Greece. Paul said to the Corinthians that all of the gifts are needed. You know, if the head, okay, says, hey, I'm the most important, so I don't need hands or feet, that's not too good of a decision, is it? We need all of it, all the different parts of the body. We need all of it working together. In the same way, Paul says that all of the gifts are needed in the community, in the spiritual community. All the gifts are needed. And if we're excluding some or thinking some are more important than others, then we're going to miss out. Paul, in fact, said that the gifts that we think are sometimes less important are actually more important. Gifts of mercy, gifts of service, things that people do behind the scenes. During the pandemic, I was in North Bay, north of San Francisco, and I would come to this really big church. Some of them are watching from Unity and Moran. Welcome you. And I'd come to this huge sanctuary, and it would be just me and the camera operator during the pandemic. It was all shut down. Everybody was at home. And people were quite strict about it. I mean, people were staying like 12 feet from each other, and everyone was wearing masks, and everyone was scared of each other. Wasn't the most fun time to be a new minister at a church. And so I'd be there, you know, I'd be talking with the camera. And, you know, we were doing lots of things, started lots of things online so that the ministry was thriving. But without all the people there, it felt really different. Without you, without the spiritual gifts that you have, without the presence that you bring, there's an emptiness. Who you are, what you bring is needed. Every single one of us. That's what makes beloved community, is all of us working together. So, our superpowers of seeking our source, knowing our spiritual gifts, what it is that energizes me, what it is that makes me come alive. I mean, I will see, I didn't ask their permission, I'm just going to say it. I know they don't like lots of fanfare. But like yesterday, Charlie and Christy were out here working on the Aina and the landscaping. Let's give them a hand. And Douglas helps them. Alan Wong, you may be watching online. So there's a number of people that help them, and they do this amazing job. And I will see them out here. I'll see Charlie here like throughout the week. And it's like, he doesn't seem to get tired. He just goes and goes and goes. When we're using our spiritual gift, it actually energizes us. It actually energizes us. Yesterday, I went to, after we had folks with faith here, I went to the rehab hospital as chaplain. And I thought, oh, wow, you know, am I going to be up to this today? And as soon as I got there, boom, 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 there were referrals waiting for me. And I was so energized. I did not want to leave last night. I was so energized because I was using my spiritual gifts. What is it that makes you come alive? What is it that it's like, oh, this doesn't even feel like work. You feel like a fish in the water. Those are spiritual gifts to be using. And using how? So we seek our source. We use our spiritual gifts. In what way? We serve. We are here to serve. We are here to serve. When I look at the life of Jesus, everything he did was about service. Everything he did was about wanting to honor the Father. Everything he did was about seeking the Father. In fact, in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus says, why do you worry about what you're going to eat or what you're going to wear? Do you not know that your Father will take care of you? And he says in verse 33 of chapter 6, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So Jesus was talking about seeking God, seeking your source, using your spiritual gifts in service. We're here to serve. Loving devotional service. How many people have ever heard the word bhakti? Raise your hands high. I want to see how many. Spell it. B-H-A-K-T-I. Bhakti. Sanskrit. How's your Sanskrit, Tony? It means loving devotional service. Everything we do, offering it to God. Living a life for God. Mowing the lawn. Cleaning the dishes. Now, some of you are saying, really? Really, Reverend Tim? Can you offer washing dishes to God? Yeah, you can. Now, it takes a certain mindset, a certain consciousness of God being in everything and offering everything to God, right? Anybody here ever read Practicing the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence? How many? Raise your hand. Oh, my. This is now on your reading list. Practicing the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. He was he was working in the kitchen in the monastery. That's what he did. Peeled potatoes, washed dishes. That's what he did. And he had such a sense of God being there. And he offered all that he was doing, peeling the potatoes, cutting the vegetables, cleaning the pots and pans. He offered all of that to God. So he was in constant prayer. Other monks would come in and say, Brother Lawrence, it's time to go to the chapel to pray. And he'd think, that's what I'm already doing. I don't need to go to the chapel to pray. I'm praying right here with the potatoes. Whatever you do, you can offer that to God as loving devotional service. Using your spiritual gifts, you can serve others. There's so much energy that comes from doing that. It's actually fun. Okay, so S words. Okay, we seek our source. We use our spiritual gifts in service. We can do all of this with a sense of humor. You mentioned that, Bonita, as one of your superpowers, and I agree. It's one of your superpowers. Sense of humor. We don't have to always take ourselves seriously. In fact, I have difficulty taking myself seriously because I know me. We take some things so seriously. Working in the hospital in Wichita, Kansas, I worked in surgical intensive care, the regional burn center, the neurocritical care unit, and the trauma unit all at the same time. I got to see the worst of the worst every day. You know, I'd have 4 or 5 deaths a day, let alone all the other people who were dying. Every day. And yet I was energized because I was using my gifts, because I was serving. And while it may seem, and I was very, very, I'm very compassionate, but might surprise you. Has anyone here ever worked in a hospital? Okay. Oh, a lot of you. All right. If you work in intensive care and trauma services, you're going to hear what's called gallows humor. I mean, jokes are made about all kinds of things, you know. I mean, we'll be sitting at a meal talking about body parts, you know, that were taken out. That doesn't make sense if you haven't worked in that setting. But a sense of humor helps us to stay human. A sense of humor helps us to stay humble. A sense of humor helps us to stay open and not afraid. It's harder for me to be afraid when I'm using a sense of humor. And I like to use it with patients. A lot of patients have a great sense of humor, you know. They may be fully paralyzed. They may have part of their brain removed. Yet they have a great sense of humor. How about you? What's so serious in your life that you can't have some sense of humor? So, all right, we seek our source. We use our spiritual gifts for service. We have a sense of humor. Also, that we can surrender. How many people here love the word surrender? Would you raise your hand? I didn't think I'd get any hands. I'm amazed. Keep them up. I want to see who loves the word surrender. Oh, wow. I'm touched. I didn't know I'd get any. You know, sometimes when I talk about surrender in Unity churches, people have a little bit of a twitch. Like, surrender. Because people in Unity like to think that we're in control. It's funny. Everybody should be laughing at this point. So much is not in our control. So what is surrender about? Well, surrendering to your highest and best good instead of doing the same thing you've been doing the entire time. Again, I've had, as a counselor, I've had many people come to me in counseling, and, you know, they've indicated or outright said that I want my life to be better without having to change anything. All righty. Not sure that's going to work. Has it been working for you so far? Surrendering to what is in our highest good. Surrendering those things that do not work for us. And surrendering to God. What do I mean by surrendering to God? Some people, I think, get this negative connotation like surrender is, you know, giving up. And in a sense it is. Like in surrendering to God, I'm giving up the notion, the illusion that I'm in control of everything. I'm giving up the notion that all this stuff that I see around me is all that is. When I'm surrendering to God, I'm giving up my old programming and my fears because I'm surrendering to God, which is what Jesus was talking about in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, to seek first the kingdom of God. Now, you know, I'm very immersed in the Bible, and I also use other scriptures such as the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, this is one of my favorite verses. This is chapter 18, verse 66. Now, the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is informing Arjuna about ways of serving God, ways of connecting with God, with him, Krishna, ways of, you know, doing all kinds of things. All sort of religious practices, lots of them. And then in the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, this is what Krishna says to Arjuna. Abandon all varieties of religion. We just spent the rest of this. Abandon all varieties of religion. The word that is used there is dharma. You know, our dharma, our religious duties, those things that are ours to do. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Surrendering to God is what my life is about. That's my entire direction, is surrendering to God. Not trying to be in charge. Not trying to control. Surrendering my life to God. There's a story in some other Vedic scriptures called the Srimad Bhagavatam. How many people here have heard of Srimad Bhagavatam? All right, there's a few. All right. There's a story in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a number of volumes. And there's this king, and he's impressed with this. It's actually an incarnation of God, incarnation of Krishna, that has come as a little person. As a little person. A brahmana, someone dedicated to God. And this king is so impressed with this little person, he says, hey, tell me what you would like. I'll give you whatever you'd like. And this little person said, just give me what I can cover in 3 steps. And the king said, are you kidding? I'm giving you such a great deal here. You can have whatever you want. And you're this little person, and you're just going to take 3 steps, and that's what you want me to give you? He said, that's right. But this was an incarnation of God. So, in the first step, the little person covered the entire world. Oops. In the second step, covered the entire universe. Third step, there wasn't anything left. And so it's like, oh, now what? And the king was a very honorable person. He's like, I don't have anything else to give you. You've already covered all the land, and this was like the king of the earth at that time. You've gotten all the land, you've gotten all the universe. I don't have anything else to give you. But then he realized there's something else he could give. He knelt down, put his head down, and he said, let your third step be on my head. I give you myself. That is what I'm asking of all of us, is to consider surrendering to God as our greatest superpower. Now, all those other things you mentioned, those are awesome. Those are all gifts that we have. But the greatest gift we have is surrendering. Thank you. At this time, I invite us to take a deep breath as we center into this. We know that where we are, God is. There's only God. There's only one power, one presence. As we breathe in, we know this presence of God is in us. Breathe into that space. Let this be a time of personally connecting with God. God is closest friend, right here with you as we go into the silence. God, we give thanks for being in your presence. We give thanks for the light, the life, living in us, as us. We give thanks for the opportunity to do your will, your pleasure on earth as it is in heaven. We give thanks. We are grateful. And so it is. Amen.